Good afternoon, everyone. My name is DM Rawlings, the 10-Minute DM. I'm an experienced Forge in the Dark GM, and I am here to offer you my advice 10 minutes at a time. So today we're going to continue with our series where I talk about other games and why I love them. This time, the game is Stonetop. Stonetop is a successfully Kickstarted powered by the Apocalypse game that's set to be released sometime in 2024. Its premise is as follows. You play the heroes of Stonetop, an isolated village near the edge of the known world. Adventures focus on dealing with threats to the village, seizing opportunities for the village, or pursuing personal goals. Months or years might pass between adventures. Stonetop is a low-fantasy, community-focused game where the small village of Stonetop is a character in its own right, and it's focused more on exploration and creative problem-solving than it is outright combat, though that does occur. And due to it being based around a hub town, it lends itself really well to a more West Marches or pickup game style. I've played Stonetop before, using a beta of it, the Seeker Playbook in particular, and had a blast playing it. Here's why I think it's so fun. First off, the playbooks are evocative and inspiring. These aren't your D&D classes. There's things like the would-be hero, or the seeker, or the judge, or the lightbearer. They defy the standard classification of Dungeons & Dragons and other such games, and make you think about class just a little bit differently. They come baked in with story prompts to get you involved in the world and connected to each other, and they have several equally interesting directions that you can take them. You could easily double up a playbook and not feel like you were competing with somebody else in that space. There's also a longer-term progression. There's more abilities than most PbtA-type games, so you can support a longer campaign with it. And like I said, I played it once, and I would love to try out different ones. They're that creative and that good. So let's take a quick little look at one here. This is the Judge Playbook, and I think the first thing that comes to mind here is right when you get into the middle column there on the right, you see that there's Legacy, Missionary, and Prophet. These are the three different directions that it can go. You can either be a missionary from somewhere else, going to this small town to help them enforce law. You can also end up being like the last of your kind, or very rare, and being like a last bastion of the Judge Order. Or you could get some strange visions that direct you to come to this town. All right, and then on the left, the Chronicle Lawkeeper section, that's showing you where you can make some definitions. Like there's a point of lore called the Chronicle inside the village of Stonetop, and you define some of the details about it. What worked well with it, what are some of the problems, and then also define your profession as Lawkeeper a little bit. You also have a series of abilities and whatnot that make this playbook really stand out. It kind of has some Paladin vibes without the holiness. It is purely about order as a concept rather than supporting a specific god. I like it a lot. Next up, the world of Stonetop is exemplary. Right away, there are so many places to go, things to explore, problems to solve. It just leaps from the page when you look at a map like this one. So many GM resources as well in the GM section to draw from to make the game your own. Magic in this game is dangerous and unknowable. There's no simple spell that you cast to understand it. Every item and spell in the game has a story on its own, and understanding how everything works takes time to unlock. And also, a lot of things come with costs, so if you're being reckless, you can really get yourself into trouble with them. The antagonistic forces in the setting are also steeped in history and there for you to uncover. There's an ancient, forgotten group of giants called the Makers, and their fate is a bit of an enigma to solve. The things below are an ever-corrupting force. The Lady of Crows puts a face on death, and the entire death mechanics in this game involve you going to the Lady of Crows and possibly bargaining to return or moving on. There are very few gods, but they're well respected and well laid out and interesting. We can also take a look at one particular magic item here. So a richly woven rug is an example of an item, and it's just one of the minor arcanum in the game. There are major ones as well, and I like drawing attention to this one because it shows you on the front of the card, here are a series of criteria that you must meet. in order to do it. And it's things like burning yourself and causing yourself harm and coming to understand the true nature of flame. And then once you have gone through that, you can flip the card over as a player and you understand what its effect is. And you can tap into a primordial power of fear within everyone. It's really neat how these things are set up. Third thing, the game is really down to earth. Stonetop hits different for me. It has its moments of actions, but the stakes remain relatively grounded. The entire game centers around a town of about 300 people, and there are kingdoms and kings and wars, presumably, but they're far away and they don't really matter for the game. It's more about the mysteries of the town and the region, and not so much about delving into dungeons, though there are dungeons to delve. The story unfolds over years. Over time, you get to upgrade your town and negotiate trade and peace and that sort of thing, and if your fortune is good, the town will grow and prosper, and new threats may appear. You may encounter problems like famine or odd lights in the forest and things like that that may become a threat to the town. It takes its time, and it focuses on the relationships as much as it does about the adventuring. In particular, there's one move, because this is a Powered by the Apocalypse game, called Keep Company, and it reads as follows. When you spend a stretch of time together, ask the others if you want to keep company. If they do, take turns asking a PC or an NPC one of the following, and there's a list of questions there. What do you do that's annoying and endearing? What do you do that I find annoying and endearing? How do we pass the time? What do we find ourselves talking about? All of these questions help build your character and make it more about who these people are, rather than the act of treasure hunting or what you might get from a more conventional game. Well, yeah, if you've never played a Powered by the Apocalypse game before, you could do far worse than picking up Stonetop as your first offering. It follows all of the fiction first, play to find out what happens conventions used in PbtA and Forge in the Dark games. The core rules don't deviate much from the original Apocalypse world, but it doesn't have that smash mouth, in-your-face kind of grit. It uses the standard 2d6 plus attribute and the 1 to 7, 8 to 10, 11% success bands. It uses player moves and GM moves. But that said, it's not heroic fantasy. It's a very laid-back fantasy, maybe a cozy fantasy. Your characters might be exemplary in town, but you're not a superhero. The creatures and the volatile magic of this world will hurt you if you are not being careful. If you're looking for something that's more pure fantasy in Powered by the Apocalypse, I might suggest Dungeon Worlds or a game called Freebooters on the Frontier. But seriously, check out Stonetop. There are a couple of actual plays out there if you use your Google or search YouTube. Anyways, I've been DM Rawlings, your 10-minute DM, and if you're loving what you see here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, maybe share this in a Discord. I don't know. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.